Crypto markets and XRP are already off to a pretty rough start this September, and it seems like things could potentially get battered a bit more by uncertainty, which leads to volatility and some potential new lows that could present great dip buying opportunities if you've been sitting on the sidelines or are trying to stack onto that bag that you already have before we blast off into the end of the year. And a lot of this uncertainty is because of Trump's September deadlines to avoid a government shutdown, advancing Russia-Ukraine peace agreement talks, which, by the way, if those don't go too well, will create for challenges in the markets, alongside the potential brink of collapse for France, which is one of the largest GDPs in the world, ranking at number 7 for $3 trillion. Now, this is all with the backdrop that on September 5th, we are expecting unemployment to rise, and this would be a very negative signal for the economy, especially if we come in hotter or higher than 4.3%, which is a great indicator that the top might be in the markets. Combine all of that with September seasonality, marking it one of the toughest months for markets and more particularly crypto. So we're going to cover all of this in this video, but as the old saying goes, calm seas never made for a skillful sailor. So what happens next and how well you manage it this month could very well determine the state of your crypto portfolio and net worth. And we'll be covering all of this in this video and how to approach the markets. And as a quick heads up, if you're looking to borrow against your crypto without having to sell it through this bull run, check this out.
Have you built a crypto portfolio over $1 million but want to access your wealth without selling any of your coins? Well, imagine unlocking up to 85% of your portfolio's value to fund ventures like real estate, to buy other projects in the crypto space that are undervalued compared to the projects that you currently hold, or to diversify into different DeFi yield opportunities. That way you can live on the interest without selling any of your crypto. Well, we've partnered with a leading global office offering non-recourse crypto loans for investors with portfolios starting at $1 million. The same company that is trusted by the world's largest institutions and investors because, as you already know, the billionaires don't sell their crypto, they borrow against it. So if you're ready to unlock up to 85% of your portfolio's value without selling any of your coins and you have a portfolio with at least $1 million, then email us at team@bullrunners.com. You're going to see our email contact in the description below, and we'll get you connected with the company that has helped clients like ours north of $100 million borrow against their crypto without selling any of it. So reach out to start a conversation with our team right now at team@bullrunners.com, and we'll talk to you soon.
So go ahead and shoot us an email if that sounds interesting to you, and we'll be sure to get you more info. Or you can always click on the link below to have your questions answered through our Telegram bot. And as always, my friend, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Hello and welcome back to the channel, my friend. If you're new here, my name is Paul, and you can find me on Twitter or X at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. I want to start off with some good news and the fact that recently, as of today, Ripple and their team announced they have another partnership with a company called Thunes to bolster cross-border payments. And this would actually use Ripple's blockchain-powered payment solutions, in other words, the XRPL, to allow Ripple's enterprise customers to more easily withdraw funds in new currencies and countries to enhance their global payment capabilities, which is pretty cool considering Thunes is already offering payments infrastructure to 130 countries in over 80 currencies for over 320 different methods of payment. Now, the goal in integrating Ripple with their current payments network would be the fact that they're enhancing payment speed, accessibility, and compliance across regions, considering Ripple has done a lot of work to be compliant, not only internationally, but even in the most difficult financial market when it comes to compliance, the United States. Now, 72% of merchants experience higher rates of failed payments in cross-border transactions, which lead to customer frustration and abandonment, with 55% of customers giving up if multiple attempts are needed. So that is the current infrastructure. And what's interesting is this is the current infrastructure for many situations when it comes to cross-border payments, but that would no longer be the case when they adopt blockchain technology technology and something like Ripple and the infrastructure that they offer. Still, that said, Ripple, or better yet, XRP, is currently down 22.2% in a little over a month. And so it doesn't really matter right now what good news comes out. I think the only thing that would likely pump the price of XRP currently might be some information or news surrounding a spot ETF approval. If that is truly approved and the spot ETF starts trading, that is going to unlock the corridor for a lot more institutional capital to enter XRP. But as things stand, we're currently sitting at a price of $2.84. And so as I've talked a lot about on this channel, XRP and the price of XRP, although they can pump really hard, more often than not is at the mercy of the market. If the general market and Bitcoin are down, then XRP is likely going to be down. And Bitcoin has been down pretty hard off of its all-time high as well, considering also that we're moving into September. And as our researcher and analyst inside of Altcoin Pro University mentioned for our community, it's that research shows September has a reputation as one of the toughest months for markets and for Bitcoin especially. And again, if it's tough for Bitcoin, it's likely going to be tough for XRP. Historically, it averages a negative 5% return, with 7 of the last 10 Septembers closing red. Liquidity tightens, bearish headlines roll in, and panic sellers add to the pressure. So when you combine that with all the news that we're going to cover in this video, again, even though we have some positive news, new partnerships, Ripple's doing well as a company, virtually no debt whatsoever, flush with cash, at the end of the day, the price of XRP might struggle through this month, which is why you're going to want to prepare. But if 2025 has taught us anything, it is this: seasonality is not destiny. Q1 was supposed to be bullish, but it turned out bearish. Q2 was expected to fade, but instead it was stronger than ever. Summer usually means boredom, but both crypto and stocks rallied. And so typically when we see a very weak summer, you can expect a pretty strong end to the year. And I'm not saying it's going to be the flip or the exact opposite of that now, but we already saw a really strong summer. So seeing it cool off through August into September wouldn't really shock me, considering in October and November, it's likely that we're going to experience even more bullishness, because summer was actually a forewarning or a sign of what's to come next. Now, that said, if you want to read the rest of this post and get more posts like this that are directly and only for our community members, head on over to altcoinpro.com to check that out. Not only will you get a world-class community, a world-class team of DeFi researchers and analysts alongside the people from the Bull Runners channel, you'll also get access to our calendar, where we host live calls every single week with Nick, myself, every single Tuesday on our Tuesday technical analysis call, and Wednesdays and Mondays we host all sorts of different events, crypto catch-up calls, you name it. These are calls that are live, and you can ask us any questions you'd like along the way and learn so much more. And I would argue that these calls alone are worth the membership. But if that's not enough, you can take advantage of our DeFi yield strategies, which I call our weekly DeFi yield quick wins, where you can put your crypto to work for you in a very safe manner and basically earn just enough, if not way more, to pay for the cost of the monthly membership, alongside all of our altcoin picks, airdrop alerts, and you name it. This is the best place on planet Earth for crypto education, tools, and resources. So go ahead and go to altcoinpro.com to check it out. And if after 14 days this isn't for you, no stress. Go ahead and ask for a refund and we'll give it to you. And if you have any more questions about Altcoin Pro, crypto loans, or virtually anything that the Bull Runners has to do or offer, you can actually find our Telegram bot in the description of each video right here, or in the pinned comment, which will look exactly the same if you click learn more. And make sure it's the pinned comment, because otherwise we could have scammers in there. Very difficult to stay on top of, considering it's 24/7, 365. But that said, here would be the link. So go ahead and join that if you have questions, and let's move on to the next portion. So let's cover that first piece of news surrounding the Trump September. And again, we have to take into consideration that September seasonality is here, and for whatever reason, markets don't really like buying in Septembers. Now that's not all the time, but that has been the last 7 out of 10 years. And when you add all of that with the uncertainty around an end of the month deadline, that's going to force Donald Trump to negotiate with Congress to avoid a government shutdown. And again, it's not like we ever shut down for good. Everyone already knows they're going to figure out some sort of a deal, even if they do shut down. Markets don't really like to hold through anything like that, especially if things last longer than typical, considering this is where they sign the next bill or agreement to fund government and initiatives. Then Trump gave the leaders of Russia and Ukraine an early September deadline, which is coming up soon, to move forward with a peace process or face possible U.S. retaliation. And this is the key point: face possible U.S. retaliation. And if we do retaliate, again, that's going to send a few shockwaves through our markets because progress has already stalled. So it's unlikely they're going to reach a decision. Now, and I don't think the entire market believes that they're going to reach a decision, but if there's U.S. retaliation, again, things might sell off even further. And this is combined with Trump facing uncertainty about the legality of tariffs, which have been the main plank of his economic agenda and key campaign promise. So take all of that into consideration, okay, and say, okay, what do you think the whole market's going to do with their capital? Do you really think that they're going to want to unload into all of these major events that can cause economic uncertainty? Probably not. If anything, they're likely going to be taking profits that they've made through the summer and kind of just sitting on the sidelines with a bit of cash, where you can expect the US dollar to continue to increase or trend up while the rest of the market continues to sell off through September. Already, again, the start of September, we're seeing a lot of weakness in the markets. We're seeing a bit of a retrace in crypto, but I don't believe it's strong enough to really take us to new all-time highs just yet. And that's because people are really uncertain about what's going to occur this Friday surrounding unemployment. Again, our current unemployment rate is sitting at about 4.2%. Now, this is one of the key economic indicators that our own Federal Reserve looks at in order to raise, or better yet, increase or lower interest rates, or better yet, even keep them flat. So if things maybe go to maybe 4.3%, I think it's very much possible and potential that our own Federal Reserve will remain flat, because this isn't a big enough of a jump in order to scare them into lowering interest rates. But if we get anything above this, let's say 4 point some percent, 4.4, 4.5, that's going to be above expectations, which will cause a bit of panic in the markets alongside all of the rest of the news that we just covered, which will lead markets to sell off. And then come about September 20th or 19th, no, 17th, JK, the Fed interest rate decision will be made. And if we come in hotter or higher, this thing will likely get lowered by 25 to potentially even 50 basis points, which will be a good indicator that we're ready to continue lowering interest rates. But by then, the markets might be selling off. So it really remains to be seen. But again, just because we have all of these major events going on, I don't think we're going to get any new all-time highs soon, even with other major pieces of positive news. Now, typically, I don't cover global economic news or other countries because I don't believe most countries are enough to really shift the tide in U.S. markets, nor do I think France is enough. But if you start to see a lot of economic turmoil or issues globally in different countries with their currencies and their financial situation, then that's also an indicator, or better yet, a leading indicator that we're starting to see the global economy cool off. And the next one to potentially go down will be France, as it's saddled with a massive debt pile, rising borrowing costs, and governments that collapse in a matter of months, which is not Italy. And again, Greece and Italy have always done pretty poorly from an economic standpoint. So this is huge, considering France is the 7th largest GDP in the world. The more ungovernable France becomes, the more investors are pushing its borrowing costs to levels familiar to Europe's debt-laden periphery. The yield on the France's 10-year bonds has risen above Greece's, which is actually quite shocking. And its borrowing rate is currently neck and neck with Italy's. And here's where it gets interesting and where it's going to be difficult for them to truly solve and settle, because France right now is dealing in parliament with divided factions, each opposing fiscal priorities and enough votes to shift the balance of power. So it's going to be extremely difficult for them to make it out of this, which will likely lead to some sort of an issue or will cause bond yields to continue to rise because foreign governments, countries, and investors will demand more money to hold French debt. And at some point in time, France might have to default on some of these bonds and get bailed out by other countries like the United States. Either way, seeing something like this doesn't really help give me confidence that September is going to be a great month for anyone, much less crypto markets, considering crypto markets are more considered risk on assets, and those are usually the first to be sold off into uncertain events. So now what I'm going to do is dive onto the chart for XRP, and before we actually do, let's just have a look at Bitcoin. As you can see, Bitcoin put in its all-time high at 124,000 before dumping to a range low of about $107,000, currently up a few $1,000s from that price all the way up to 111. So it's very much possible and potential that this was the local low of the range. And this is actually something that I did call on my last Tuesday technical analysis call for our community members. But that said, it doesn't look like we're out of the woods just yet. And it seems to me like we're going to get a decent amount of resistance somewhere here between 113 down to 112. So if that occurs, then yes, XRP is going to struggle. Now, XRP has been holding in its range a little bit better. As you can see, we have a support right here coming in on August 2nd. And yet again, we broke right below that range for 269 before pumping to 284. Many might argue that on these lower time frames, this is a textbook bear trap. The price breaks below this range right here, essentially liquidating a bunch of traders who had stop losses right below the low of this range before pumping back up in the opposite direction. So from a daily time frame, this one candle does look pretty good. I'd still like to see though volume confirm that, and right now volume is really weak. It's consistently been declining since that all-time high. So even with this little bear trap, it's actually looking like we might pump back up to maybe $2.95, maybe $3. But at $3, we do have a decent amount of resistance, especially if I pull up that VRVP. You can see $3 right here. We have a pretty large cliff of resistance. So this is going to be a hard range for XRP to beat. And then when you combine that with this trend line right here, where we consistently have seen sell pressure, not only do we have a confluence of a trend line where the price could break down, but we have a lot of volume that it's going to need to beat. And again, in a month where there's a lot of uncertainty, where we have seasonal weakness, I don't know of any situation where I'd want to be long. If anything, I might wait for this thing to retrace back up to $2.95, $2.90, maybe $3 before placing a short sell on a bit of leverage. Now, I'm not recommending anyone do that, but I'm not liking the fact that we are currently in this local downtrend where Bitcoin is also breaking for some new lows. So our next major range of support, like I've been talking about on prior videos, is going to be somewhere at 260 down to 245. And I believe if we hit a range of 245, that's going to be a very good opportunity to buy a dip, which is actually not too far down below where we currently are. So even if, let's just say, the price goes to 290, if we break down to about 244, 245, that's only 16% down from current prices. Now, if you're on leverage or 16% looks like it's going to hurt a lot, I'm not saying that's going to occur. I'm saying to prepare for a scenario like this because we are currently in a downtrend. Then maybe, you want to sell off to that sleeping point, wherever you're comfortable enough to hold and still be able to sleep. If this causes you a lot of stress, think twice about holding through that entire dip. However, if you're getting really excited about a dip like this, that's a great way to play this, because at the end of the day, it's likely we're breaking down to 260, and this would actually be where I'm betting. I'm betting to the downside. The only time I would bet to the upside is if for some reason, way, shape, or form, we're able to break above $3, hold that range for a little while, and then we pump, and this is where I would actually be long. But I want to bet with the trend, and right now the trend going all the way back to July 21st is down. Anywho, that is it for the video, folks. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and also check out any of of those links down in our description below, whether you want to check out Altcoin Pro University, join our Discord channel, whether you want to join our Telegram bot and learn more about any of these programs. It's all up to you, but we have all the resources there for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.